Good afternoon, everyone. Thank you very much for joining in on our weekly FOA Live. Pleasure to connect with all of you. Jennifer Katrulya, co-president of FOA, and of course, joined by Rush Olney. Rush, good afternoon to you.
Yeah, good afternoon, Jennifer, and good morning, good afternoon, or good evening to everybody joining us from wherever that may be. I'm joining from an undisclosed location today that comically was trying to soundproof or sound dampen an empty office with a bunch of cardboard boxes. So if there's an echo, I apologize. I did my best.
He has bunkered in today, so well, glad you could make it. And to anyone listening live, we love your comments. Please feel free to chime in. I know there's been some on the announcement even for today's show, a bunch of likes, and I know I've got a bunch of comments, and thank you to everybody who's interacting and chiming in. And again, these lives are meant to be interactive as well, so look forward to your notes. And for those who listen afterward and the recordings, I know there are an increasing number of you, so thank you for taking the time. As always, we're going to jump into some housekeeping and just catch everybody up and answer any questions. And then we are going to be talking today about a topic. We're going to have a deeper dive next week during our masterclass, but getting an increased number of questions about complex assets and using those as really a financial vehicle, an investment opportunity, and donation path. So we will be deep diving again a little bit today. Rush and I will be discussing that, and then we have as a guest appearance during our masterclass sessions next week, Monday through Thursday next week. We'll have our masterclass from 1 to 3 p.m. Eastern each day, covering a range of topics from multi-generational family planning, compliance. We were asked specifically to share our financial literacy program for athletes as part of our On the Rise program. So we'll be chiming in about that next week and a number of other topics. I will make sure for those of you who've been asking about the registration link, as this airing posts after our live session, I will include the link to register in the comments section. So feel free to grab it there. And then also, we will be posting a number of upcoming events. We've already posted some information about the FOA Fall Summit, which is slated for October 1st and 2nd in Kansas City. And I mentioned that because what a difference a year makes. We held last May, actually, in Kansas City, our first FOA summit. And that one, was definitely new to market in terms of Rush and I launching something like that, and FOA hosting that type of event. And so there was a lot of curiosity around what we were doing and what that would look like. And so incredibly grateful to whether it was in Kansas City, you know who you are, and we'll follow up with our thanks again for those really few pillar people who helped to make that happen. And again, it was a little bit of an experiment and an uphill climb last year, but turned out phenomenally successful thanks to a number of you and everyone who turned out this year. For those of you who see the LinkedIn post, and again, we'll share, we announced it last week. The event has over 3/4 filled in terms of attendance. Our speaker slate, exciting. Can't wait to share that with all of you. That'll be posted this week. And we have some awesome surprises coming. So this year overall theme, we will be touching on, family office trends and best practices in a number of areas. Certainly real estate, as you would expect, alternative investments. We have a growing community really heavily invested in sports, wellness, lifestyle, fashion, the arts. And so we have some phenomenal guests actually participating in some entertaining and informational things that's Tuesday morning on October 1st with us. And so look forward again. Don't want to ruin all the surprises, but we'll be sharing them out. And then on the Tuesday, or the Wednesday rather, October 2nd, our sports, lifestyle, and wellness day, followed by our FOA second annual Casey athlete and family pickleball tournament. So lots going on at that event. But again, I mentioned, especially if you are a current FOA member, Resource Council member, or incoming member, we do have for right now the opportunity for you all to register at the head of the list, and we want to make sure that no one gets closed out. So please make sure that you are registered if you're planning to attend, as that opens up a little more broadly. So Rush, with that, we had a lunch in New York City last week. I know you've been busy on a number of fronts, and we'll be seeing you in Florida for the member and guest event that we'll be attending this week. But last week, thank you to those who showed up in New York City for our lunch at Oceana. It was nice to return there after a little while, and thanks to the team at Oceana. They're always very generous with us and great hosts. We had Scott Nordstrom from Merck Animal Health and Gary Brode. Gary gave a very spirited economic update and challenge to the group. So for those who do follow up and have questions, we'll make sure we share out some information Gary's shared with us. But want to thank them both for taking the time to join us and speak last week. And I know there were a lot of requests for Gary to present and Scott with us again. So we'll be including them as guests on some upcoming lives, and excited to continue that process. So Rush, any updates you want to share? I know we've launched our EB5 membership opportunity, and that's getting some great feedback already. So a couple things we have coming up there.
Yeah, we have the EB5 group that we're pressing hard into. Jennifer's doing a ton of work on that, and so keep an open mind to that. It's not just for people investing in EB5, but it's also an interesting place to potentially discuss alternative sources of capital. And we've opened the FOA arms to welcome all investors into that, and give them a landing site with high net worth, ultra high net worth professionals and families to open the arms as they kind of start a new adventure in a new country, and just give them a better understanding of community and open lines of communication to make that adventure as fruitful and easy as possible. And then on the blog fronts, with those, we're working to do a better job with coordinating our FOA Live with our blog, with our newsletter. So any feedback on that would be appreciated. So that's where that's my updates. So I guess we can jump into donating complex assets and just kind of scratch the surface on what is a very intricate but can be very beneficial way to donate and to make an impact.
So to Rush's point, we're always working on bringing you more information in an organized and hopefully easy to digest way. Your feedback always valued, and we will be hosting in collaboration with Citron Cooperman next Tuesday, the 26th, an webinar at 3 p.m. Eastern, specifically for EB5 investor families, for those in the EB5 space, as far as working with investor families, to really just talk about some challenges we're seeing families experience, and how we're as a community helping to solve for them and provide a place really for families to come together. So a number of you have already reached out by either LinkedIn message or direct email, and certainly look forward to hearing from more of you about how we can make this a really collaborative and supportive space. So thank you again to everybody who's already jumped in, and looking forward to sharing more about that. And then with regard to today's topic, with regard to talking about, we've been discussing impact and philanthropy, and certainly the differences between the two. But one of the ways that families certainly do maximize their impact, and the really active ongoing discussions, especially as emerging and new leaders of families want to understand better how they can leverage this, but is donating complex assets. So Rush, maybe you can talk about a little bit what that is, and we'll kind of jump in.
Yeah. So just again, this will be fairly surface today. We have a blog coming out on it, and then happy to either discuss or work with families to find professionals that may be able to help with it. But the advantage to donating complex assets, it really starts with figuring out what assets you would like to donate, discussing those with a professional, and then I guess what we should start with is defining what a complex asset is, and how to kind of identify those would be the first step for any family. So if you wanted to walk through what some, or I guess typical things that are considered complex assets would be, Jennifer.
Sure, Rush. So among the areas that we'll talk about first, essentially that's including non-traditional assets, whether it's real estate, privately held businesses, artwork, intellectual property, cryptocurrency. Those assets really can present unique challenges when it comes to valuation, taxation, liquidity. And so when we think about opportunities to include those complex assets as donation opportunities, and in a way that benefits families as well as obviously make a much greater impact. Those are the types of things that we're talking about. And when Rush and I are mentioning today that we're going to go into this later, and next week we'll be having time with the Greater Kansas City Community Foundation, Greater Horizons, and having a deeper conversation. But some examples when we're talking about this, that donation of real estate. Real estate can be donated to a charity either in full or in part through a retained life estate. And so when we talk about that type of donation and that arrangement, basically donors giving the property to a charity, but they retain the rights to use that real estate during their lifetime. And so that's one of the ways when we talk about the opportunities, and from a real estate perspective, to make the most of these complex asset donations. From a private business standpoint, the owners of privately held businesses can donate shares of their company to a charitable organization. This is really attractive for businesses with high valuations because it allows the donor to support a charitable cause while potentially avoiding in a legit way. And we want to make sure, again, see your tax professionals, not giving formal advice here, but allows that donor to support a charity while doing some sophisticated tax planning and avoiding the capital gains that arise from selling the shares, and in this case, being able to donate. And so the third opportunity that we talk about right now as an example is the donation of artwork or collectibles. So donating, valuable artwork or collectibles, it not only provides a charity with valuable assets that can be displayed or sold, but it offers a number of donor tax advantages. So those are types of things as we continue to explore this and work through our master classes and through we are bringing together thought leadership and experts in each of these areas who can work through this process with you, and actually based on your individual family needs and values and goals, do a really thorough job with you of helping with this planning and with your go forward process. So Rush, when we think about that kind of in a bigger sense, what are some of the popular ways that families think about approaching these complex asset donations?
Obviously, there is the direct donation, but there are also donor advised funds, which allow donors to contribute and to pool those donations, and to then have some say in how those are distributed and where those are distributed. To your point, the charitable remainder trust is another one that's similar to the first one that you'd outlined, which is making a donation of either a family trust, a business, any piece of that you can still, as the living donor, benefit from that, use the income from that investment while you're alive, and then at the point that you aren't, it passes over. And all of these, what a big key with all of these is typically for high net worth, ultra high net worth, is the tax benefit, but then the benefit for the group receiving it, or the charity receiving it, is that those get passed over, not unlike a 1031 exchange, at current market value. So if you've generated a significant amount of value in an asset, or if it's appreciated a large amount, it really gives full bang for the buck, and quite frankly, a nearly untaxed way. So just like a 1031 exchange, you get to roll the full value, and benefit from that into another investment or into a like product. You can do that through charitable donation, which, and again, as Jennifer had said, we are not tax professionals. So please reach out to us, and we'll help you locate one, or help you get in touch with somebody who can give you, the actual benefit down to the dollar that you would be receiving. And then, yeah, that's, I mean, I think you'd covered the remainder. What was the first one that you'd said? Because the charitable remainder trust sounded very similar to.
So we talked a little bit about donor advised funds and the charitable remainder trusts. And so we want to make sure that in all of these situations that families, as you're talking through this, on our last week's show, we talked about really looking at the overall relationship with your family and your vision and your goals. And so this ties very, very tightly into your longer range, what you want your impact to look like. And so one of the reasons that this is so attractive is that when you think about your family vision, your end game, and how you want to get there, Russ shared an example that we picked up on our recent impact retreat, where there were families who the paths they were headed down, and then maybe the businesses they were pursuing weren't necessarily in line as they progressed with what their future family vision looked like and what their goals were. So when you think about this opportunity to make these donations and what that's going to look like, right from the entry point of making these investments, you have the opportunity to look down the path and say, hey, is this also going to be something that I pass on in a way is meaningful for me, that provides the kind of value and sharing opportunity? There are families certainly that intend to hold these types of assets, keep them very private within the family, enjoy them as a family, and then move on. But for those, and Rush, we've experienced this actually in a number of ways through museum donations, through museum relationships, and other types of business donations, a number of vehicles over the last couple of years. And so seeing those relationships with the families, the amount of tax planning and structure that goes into it, but also that family discussion. Now, some again, this can venture into discussions about your foundation relationships and your other forms of strategic planning as a family. But none of this happens well unless you do it actually as a collaborative family conversation. And so that's something that when we're talking about the multi-week and multi-month strategy, and we put out there a few shows ago, the 6-month challenge, in terms of both working with your families to document your vision, your giving strategy, your wealth transition, and then your entrepreneurial endeavors as well. And we'll post that up to the top so that everyone has access to it. But those are some of the key areas that we touched on. And so this complex assets management and donation process becomes critical. And so what we suggest is that when you look at, as a family, your current holdings, I want to say your exit plan or transition plan with regard to those assets, and then what you want that to look like in the future, how you plan to transition those. We do want to make sure, again, that as part of your tax plan, in addition to your family arrangements, that you have those accounted for. So Rush, when we look ahead in terms of how we'll be assisting and kind of transitioning into the conversations over the next several weeks. When we talk about that family planning, we started last week with that family vision board, kind of figuring out for families what that would want to look like. This is sort of the next step in that process, where we say, okay, as we're considering our family structure, and we challenged our next gen leaders to jump in and get a handle on what that family financial plan would look like, understanding again how you'll move through and out of assets and the tax implications of that becomes very, very important. One of the topics that I then this was a topic, I don't know if she's on today, but Kay, if you're on, well, Kay Shaw and I were having a conversation last week about compliance, and she'll be kindly joining us on an upcoming call. But certainly that family office structure and compliance is where she spends a lot of her time. And so Kay and I were talking about how, from a governance standpoint, all of this is carefully woven together from a control standpoint as well, and making sure that these wishes and family goals and plans carry forward. So we will be spending time talking about family office governance and how this all ties in. And as well as, just again, for preparing on the upcoming shows. Kay, hi, nice to see you there. So thank you, Kay. Thank you for your note this morning. I'll be in touch with you. And so looking forward to having Kay on. Some of the other areas that we'll be touching on are staffing, because when we deal with issues like this, one of the things we've been seeing is that family offices are not necessarily bringing on the skill set, the talent, and the support to being able to have these complex conversations and to be able to manage relationships like this for the families. So we want to make sure, as we go back and kind of revisit the bullet list about how to make all these things work and optimize them for within your family office. Then we look at how this is best accomplished, whether you're going to continue to bring this talent in-house or leverage the strategy of outsourcing and doing this in a virtual setting or outsourced environment. And the most current ways that we're seeing that happen successfully, especially in an age where even professionals and firms you work with are going through a number of merger and acquisition and changes themselves. So there's just not that kind of long-standing, where we're through the full range of the years of your family and transition, you're going to see things be able to stay the same way they have been. So Rush, when we've talked about, and when we move into the conversations about, active investing and active investment strategy, when we think about, and I've been seeing this kind of that challenge of families bringing together kind of legacy investment strategy, and also those who are feeling very energetic about trying a wide range of new opportunities and new solutions. One of the things, at least I know we've been encountering, is families really focused on keeping that core of making sure that entrepreneurial interests are balanced with risk tolerance and risk management, and making sure that at a core there is a baseline of assets in the family that keeps things secure and enduring from one generation to the next. So this is one way I think that when we're talking about that, the complex asset donation also kind of helps carve out a section of the investment portfolio for families that we know aren't going to be touched, but also have a very sound plan as the family moves forward and transitions. Any thoughts you may have about that?
Well, the use of donating complex assets would be very similar to when, as Jennifer was stating, when a family determines, I guess, what their mission statement is going forward through a transition, and they determine assets that they would like to peel away, or that they would like to sell, or I think that's where the donation process and to that point, the crucial aspect of the donation process, or one of them, is going to be the valuation of the asset that's coming in, or that you're looking to donate. And what's interesting about that is when people donate cash or stocks, publicly traded companies, there's a set valuation on it. It's set by the market or Fed or just society as a whole. When you're donating a one-off business or IP or art, finding professionals that work in that sphere. And then one of the biggest things that kept coming up in reading and discussions is just the documentation of how that's being valued, who's doing the valuations, and getting those valuations and that documentation signed off on. And really working with, in a prior discussion, we'd mentioned, kind of in a blurb, working with regulators as family offices become more prevalent, working with and having good relationships with regulatory offices and individuals will be crucial to making things smoother for your family in whatever direction you choose to go. And so determining that fair market value, when you come together and sort of determine what that future mission statement is and what is and is not going to take, and some of the time and energy of the family going forward. Once that happens, taking those assets and getting them valued, whether it be for sale or a donation, is crucial to being able to determine which avenue is right for you and your family, and also how to maximize the benefit for either sale or donation.
And so Rush, thank you. And I know I'm actually getting some direct messages about additional types of assets that fall within what can be considered part of this donation of complex assets. So as we kind of go into the last few minutes, this is certainly not an exhaustive list. And again, as always, please consult with your tax professional. And certainly if you have questions about that, about how to identify and find the right professionals based on your situation. I had lunch with someone last week who said, look, I have global investments, I have global tax planning, I have global legal and other needs. And anyone I sit down with looks at me and says, I need to do some research. And then this person never hears back because they have such a multi-generational family structure that is very complex. So I will also point out that finding individuals who are equipped to help you with this is not always an easy path either, and certainly not for generalists. So where you have questions about this or finding some challenges, even getting the right advice, certainly something within our resource council or other relationships, happy to always entertain those discussions. Please send us a DM and we'll talk about that more, at least the process of vetting the right people for you. But in terms of other examples, vehicles and boats are an opportunity to consider donations. Intellectual property, so patents, copyrights, trademarks, royalties or rights. So basically those income generating assets from like royalties from books, music, mineral rights. And we're going to delve more deeply into some of that going forward. Life insurance policies, retirement assets, commodities and other business inventory. So agricultural products, excess business inventory. There are a number of things like that people don't always consider. And so we look forward really to being able to share. We have a white paper and some other information that we're going to post out to the site for you. And then in addition, again, that upcoming conversation with the KC Community Foundation that we'll be bringing to you next week. Very excited to jump into this in more detail. These FOA Live Mondays, we do have a new set of topics coming out for you, and we'll begin to post those in advance so you kind of know what's coming up on your next Monday show. But these are a great informal way for us to connect with a lot of you and answer your questions again and get your updates. So please look for those links we've mentioned in the chat section of this post as it becomes linked out on LinkedIn. That was a lot of links in there, but definitely appreciate all of you taking the time to join, and look forward to the masterclass conversations next week and to sharing with all of you. So thank you very, very much. As always, a pleasure. Again, Jennifer Katrulya, Rush Olney. Rush, enjoy the rest of your bunker spring break week.
I will. I'm getting used to it. It's very, very cozy now.
And we'll see all of you on the next FOA Live. Thank you so much.
Thanks, everybody. Have a good week.